which is so creeping, simmering, but also quite prevalent. And guess who's at risk are women and girls. Men are not just maybe sidelined, but these are the most violated. Now we've seen creeping, also prevalent cases of teenage pregnancies ranging from age 12 to 25. Recently, this very week, we saw a report from the Luweero District Health Centers. They released a report that something like almost every day 11 girls are impregnated. We're talking about teenagers of 12, 13, 14, 15 years. But of course, this is going on not only in Luweero. When you go to West Nile, it is quite alarming. But not only that, let's come to violence against women, against girls. We've seen cases of rape. We've seen cases of men abusing their wives. We've seen against children who are burnt. The list is endless. But again, I want to look at the law. What is the role of the law to the gender-based violence? So there are so many questions where we're going to dwell and tackle more and more. Now, today I'm joined by a legal officer, and that's none other than Susan Wamala Nabatte, who is a legal officer at FIDA Uganda. Susan, thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you for hosting me. It's
Pleasure.
A privilege.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be here. I hope our discussion could have some impact on
I like your smile
out there. Thank you.
As if you're not living in the dark. You know, there's a lot of darkness going out there, and that darkness, I call it darkness because gender-based violence is so much heartening. Sometimes you wonder what's going on, and it seems like there's no solution to this prevalent kind of vice or life going on in the world. Now, I really don't know where to begin from, but Susan, gender-based violence. We are in the 16 days of gender-based violence, and this was, of course, called on by the World Health Organization. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Have we done enough? Has the law done enough to fight the gender-based violence?
Thank you so much. Usually, as civil society organizations, we are really excited during this season. It's the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. But most times, we don't limit it to these days of activism. We do it throughout the year, throughout the months, and people have really tried. Organizations have tried, implementers have tried. The law has really come into play, but it's very sad to mention that gender-based violence is something that is on the rise, even when all these things are in place. So from the legal perspective, first of all, if we are to help understand what gender-based violence is, it is that kind of harm that happens to a person because of their perceived or factual gender or sexual orientation. And that's why sometimes the focus is more on girls and women, because they face a lot of violence, ranging from physical violence, ranging from sexual violence, ranging to emotional violence. We have economic violence. There's so much around gender-based violence.
Yes.
And I think if we are to tackle the law in regarding, maybe I'll do it in bits.
Yes.
If we talk about the law on, let me say, sexual violence, which most times we term as sexual and gender-based violence, it is that the law has come into place. We have so many acts that curtail such acts of gender-based violence. Right from our constitution, because our constitution protects the rights of women and the rights of children. We have a whole provision on women.
Our constitution protects.
Our constitution protects women.
Women.
Yes.
I hope that doesn't stay in books, but
yeah,
also it comes to the ground.
Yeah, but also we have the Penal Code Act that tries to criminalize sexual offenses in Uganda. Yes, but when this act came into place, it was really exciting at that time. But we noted that as time went on, that many provisions had been outlawed. Okay. Yes, and many of them had actually become, let me say, old, given the changing trends in society.
Yes.
Because now we have so many forms of violence coming up. We have sexual harassment, we have even computer harassment coming up, we have child marriages, we have sexual exploitation, we have children who are taken out for purposes of prostitution. So many things have changed within that law. Yeah.
I mean, women's photo
and I
being
think as Uganda
displayed.
we had a missed opportunity with the sexual offences bill that was trying to be introduced in Parliament. We had a setback because that bill was coming to specifically curtail sexual offences.
Okay, what happened?
Yes. What happened with that bill is that it was taken back because it had some provisions that were not in agreement with some of the parliamentarians.
Okay, provisions like, if you don't mind.
Many of them were going into the anti-homosexuality engagements, but when we took it back, that wasn't the core. We had so many issues in the sexual offences bill that was trying to help us curb sexual and gender-based violence. But that we shall come to it because I think the last I remember is that I think it has been retabled and we are waiting to see how far it goes. But when we talk about this bill, it had a lot of offences. It was a bit enhancing on the offences that were being provided by the Penal Code Act, but also taking into consideration the new sexual violences that had come up so far. And I think also the law itself has become a little bit of an impediment because the law requires a lot of evidence to prove sexual violence. When a woman comes up and says I was raped, or a girl comes out and says I was defiled, we require a lot of evidence as the law guides. And we can't go to court without that evidence. That's why sometimes when they say when someone has been raped, don't shower them, first go for the medical test first. This is to help in the organization of evidence. Usually when they do that test, they are trying to ascertain the harm, the extent of harm that has been happened on this child, but also they're trying to ascertain who has done this harm.
Exactly.
That's why when they collect samples, they match it with someone's DNA to see that they actually tally. But most times the communities are not even sensitized, but also it becomes hard because when someone has been defiled, it's no longer about the physical harm, but also their psychology, their emotional harm. Many things happen within that, and in the process, evidence is destroyed.
It is destroyed.
Yes, but also sometimes we have now like the implementers of people who are supposed to guide in this whole thing are also underfunded. I'll give an example of the police. Police usually is the first core area so that we can record this evidence, and the police has a duty to issue out a police form 3 that will take you for the medical examination. But what usually happens is that this police form 3, some victims are meant to pay for it. Yes, which now curtails justice. It's an impediment of justice. It stops justice because it's telling someone who is vulnerable, who has been raped, to pay for a police form 3. But when you tackle that police form 3, it's supposed to do the first examination. And if we don't do it, then we are losing out on evidence.
And before we know it, there's a lot of bureaucracy, time is going.
Time is gone. Those who can't afford to pay for it.
And they're like, but also there's a presence of relatives who could be perpetrators or suspected to be perpetrators. And there's also, I normally see the shyness. How can I say that my uncle did this? How will I appear at home on the village in the chika? Nti kojja nempayo kojja nze mwanange yavisi parents muna mwanange guma chitubaddeko neguma tukyogera. I mean, how are you tackling those? What causes this? Is it because people do not have enough knowledge? Their confidence has not been built enough to say that oba chichi I'm going. Oba neyaba mateeka bali wala hard to reach.
I think the major cause of that is what we call victim belief in civil society. Victimization, re-victimization of victims. Yes, that sometimes if someone comes out, and I think when the reports that came out during the COVID-19 period, the sexual violence report that came out, tagged so much of people who were in positions of taking care of these children and others who had actually harassed them. And these included parents, these included stepfathers, included uncles, guardians. So it was too much. And why they don't usually come up is that they usually, the case is killed at the first instance of report. If your father has assaulted you and you tell your mother, most likely should be the first person to say, let this thing not go out, because we are protecting the family image. Tugenda kuswala, as you said. Others say that I might lose my marriage because of this. So society has also played a role in stopping justice of sexual violence victims.
But now, Susan, what can we do to this?
What can we do is that communities need to believe in sexual violence that actually happens. Communities have to believe that when someone tells you I've been raped, let us stop questioning how were you dressed at the time of rape. Yes? Then they say, did you put yourself in a position that maybe caused that? For example, girls, were you moving around in the night? Were you hanging around with the boys? Something like that. So usually when we put questions, sexual violence, in a way we are stopping justice from taking its course, yes? But also there are instances when society itself has not believed in the law, yes? Where they want to handle issues as family matters, even when they involve someone's life being at the line. I'll give an example. When these matters go to the police station, which is the first point of investigation, because as lawyers, when we are to prosecute these cases, we need the evidence that comes from police. I think that one we all know. Most times when they go to the police station, they handle this issue like a civil matter. It is a criminal matter, whereby they call parents and they negotiate it out between the perpetrator and the victim. In that way, the victim is left hanging. She can't have justice because there has been a negotiation, even without her knowledge and consent, where the perpetrator is saying, I can offer maybe 2 cows, I can offer 2 goats, I can offer 300,000, and the case stops there. That means the file will not be sent to the state prosecutor, and the matter will not move. So despite the law being available, there is a lot of impediment in the first stages of investigation of these cases. Yes.
Wow. For those who have just joined us, I'm with Susan Wamala Nabatte. She's a legal officer at FIDA Uganda, and we're tackling gender-based violence and the law. We're talking about the 16 days of activism. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll dive into it deeper.
Bethany TV for health. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to introduce Bethany Santa Omugabi, who will be sharing wonderful goodies with you this Christmas season. Getting a chance to meet Bethany Santa Omugabi is easy. Just tune into Bethany TV and get to know our various programs and talented presenters. Bethany Santa Omugabi will make surprise appearances during our live programs and offer Christmas hampers filled with an assortment of goodies, including healthy food items. When you spot Bethany Santa Omugabi during any of our programs, be the first to call in and say, "Hello, Bethany Santa Omugabi. I am your Christmas date." He will then ask you a simple question about our programs and presenters. If you answer correctly, you instantly win a mega Christmas hamper. But that's not all. You can also respond on social media. The first 20 people to respond to each question on social media will be entered into a draw. And lucky winners will be picked and announced during Bethany Santa Live on Saturdays. Bethany Santa Omugabi, only on Bethany TV for health. Introducing Bethany TV, the pioneer health and wellness channel in Uganda and Africa, having a profound commitment to health and wellness. Our content takes various forms, from music and series to documentaries, talk shows, news, features, movies, cartoons, and reality shows. We are a hybrid station available on free-to-air and pay platforms embracing the digital age as we maintain a strong online presence through our website, social media platforms, and mobile apps. Explore our rich and diverse content, engage with us on social media, and be a part of the positive change we aim to bring to the health and wellness landscape. Bethany TV, for health. Are you ready for this good news? You can now watch Bethany TV on Your TV, AfroMobile, and Airtel TV apps. Yes! Catch the finest programming prescription for everybody, wherever you are, whenever you are. Bethany TV, for health. Introducing Medical Minds with Dr. Nabatte.
And these tubes can be so delicate that sometimes they get damaged. Some people have gotten the damage because they have undergone some operations. So damage to the tube system is one of the big problems we also do see.
The groundbreaking show that takes you behind the scenes of the Medical Minds.
You will explore cutting-edge treatment and technologies revolutionizing reproduction health.
Now in retrograde ejaculation, we get damage to the junctional valves, which I should say.
Learn about the science behind fertility, contraception, and emotional journeys that several women trek.
Every Sunday, 8 p.m., live on Bethany TV. Bethany TV, for health.
Good morning once again. Thanks for joining us, and we're tackling gender-based violence. Now, we are in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence that kicked off on November 25th and is going up to 10th of December. Now, something about the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is key in the national moment to call for the end of violence against women and girls. Now, it runs, like I said then, but there's more support to this campaign. The United Nations Secretary General Unit by 2030 initiative calls for global action to increase awareness. Now, that's where I want us to do so much, but also galvanize advocacy efforts to share knowledge and innovation to help and end all types of violence against women and girls. So that's where we are. Now, I'm joined with a legal officer at FIDA Uganda. That's none other, Susan Wamala Nabatte. I made a mistake in the first place. I beg your pardon. Nabatte is in the house. Susan, now that abachala, abawala, bamaze okutuukibwako ebizibu bino, eddembe lyabwe lirinnyiddwa. Ogambye nti ssemateeka wa Uganda wa 95 awagira abakyala okuba n'eddembe lyabwe n'abawala. Ssemateeka omu yalimu ndoozi akawaayiro bakaabira omusalo agamba nti omuntu tegumusingenga okuggyako ng'amaze okukakasibwa nti waliwo obujulizi obumulumika. Kakati abakyala bano n'abawala nga bamaze okutuusibwako obuvune babakutte, babakasa omukwano ogw'ekikulu, bafunisiza embuto badduse kabe kasinge nga baŋŋanda zaabwe. Kiki ekibaddako awo? Etteeka terikoze kimala, katugeze kiki ekiddako? Omuntu oyo alekeddwawa okumubudaabuda, mumubudaabuda mutya?
Webali nnyo omukisa guno. Omuntu wabanga atuukiddwako kituyita violence sexually, ekintu ekisooka netwetegeeza psychology ye at that time, oba embeera ye ey'obwongo saawa ezo, kubanga ebiseera ebisinga ono bamukosa ku mubiri tekikoma awo, naye n'obwongo bubaako ekituukiddwako. So ebiseera ebisinga tukubirizanya abantu omuntu afunye obuvune bwe butyo, tusookere mu ddwaliro. Ekyosa mu ddwaliro bintu bibiri. One, when police were to form a trial drive, tufuna ebintu bibiri. Tujjako evidence naye n'ekirala. Evidence we bujulizi. Naye n'ekirala omuntu ayinza obanga ayinza ofuna obulwadde. Nga tamanyi muntu akoze ki amutusizaako obulabe obwo oba embeera ey'obulamu eyimiridde eti. Ne tugamba omuntu ono bamuwe post exposure prophylaxis tetuyita PEP.
Yes.
Asooka atereere in case ng'obulwadde bugenda kujja buleme kukola ki kujja. Ne tutangira embuto waba mwana muto.
Yes.
Yes. Because wofuna obuvuna obwo n'ogattako ebirala ebiddirira oyinza okugwa eddalu.
Omugugu munene nnyo.
Omugugu munene nnyo.
Ate n'omubiri tegweteeseteese.
Kyekyo lwaki ebiseera ebisinga tuba twagala tusooke tutereeze ebinajja mu maaso ebikyamu. Tuziyize.
Yes.
Naye n'ekirala bano abantu abatuukiddwako buno obuvune beetaaga kitwa safe space.
Kyeki ekyo?
Safe space etegeeza nti obuddamu omuntu asobola okweyabiza. Kubanga aba alina obulumi bungi bw'atabufulumya
ayinza okuwabika
bwe bumugaba muno yeetuze nga bamukutte. So wafulumya obwo obulumi tasobola bufulumya mu kifo kiri open. Tulanga ne tuba tukola ensonga zino za sexual offences teziba mu open nga tutandise okuwa obujulizi. Tuba tulina omuntu omuddaabiriza aterere bulungi. So twogera ku buddamu safe space eno ereetebwawo okulaba nti weeyabya naye ne bakuwa neki counseling. Counseling aba wakuddaabiriza bwongo. Kino kibaddewo naye obulamu busobola otambula beyond this. Kino kibaddewo naye tusobola otambuza omusango wetuti. Because omuntu atuukidde avune tosobola atambuza musango nga taddaabiriziddwa. Aba tajja kuyamba. Olina omubuddaabudda counseling. Because they are your clients, your victim. Saawa ezo ye client. So tosobola mutwala speed nga avuga omusango gw'ettaka. Nedda. Oba olina omuddaabiriza mu bwongo, mubiri.
Mu kumubudaabuda mugamba ki?
Ensonga za sexual violence oba omuntu omukabasanya nene. So one, omugamba, some people babeera baagala okulaba nti waliyo justice enaatuukibwako omuntu akinkoze.
Kubanja okumanya kikyaya.
Njagala kumanya. Ki banamukola ki? Abantu abamu tebabelivingira mu mateeka. Ayinza ogamba gayinza obutakola. N'olina omutegeeza nti okukwata omuntu ono omuteekako justice oba omuwa ekibonerezo kyeyetaagiddwa ofuna. Twetaaga tutambule naawe. Tutambule naawe tutya nga bwenyinyi ohiirinze. Yes. Naye ngeno evidence tugicollectinze na beginning kubanga mba tumina evidence. Oba bujulizi omusango tegugenda tambula. Tegujja tambula. Ojja bweyogera bwogezi. Naye nga tewali ki bujulizi state bwe yeetaaga. Kubanga state yakola omusango guno. N'ate ekisinga ekiri mu mateeka nti jjukira nga Kawaliro kweyogedde nti omuntu ali innocent paka nga bamusingiza omusango.
Yes.
Eyo part you have prepared the victim for it. Because ajalaba omuntu eyamukutte ng'afulumye. Ng'ali ku kyalo atambula. Naye ate naye omuntu akoze defilement kagambe ku mwana ayina eddembe ery'omweyimirira kyetuyita bail. Ayina eddembe lya police bond. Ayina eddembe until they are proved guilty.
Yes.
Kubanga saa zino he's a suspect, he's an accused. That's why we call them accused. Nti bamusibeko musango naye ng'asobola gwejjulula oba ne gumusinga.
Yes.
So ono victim wo oyina omutwala through those stages to understand that in case this happens like this, the other person has their right.
Kati kyenjize nti kasita mumalo ali mu buzibu watusibwako obuzibu tusooka kumutwala mu ddwaliro ne tufuna obulamu bwe buyimiridde butya ne tutangira embuto ne tutangira n'obulwadde bwa mukene
ne tujjako ne evidence
ne tujjawo ne tumufunako n'obujulizi. Kakati ebyo we biggwa awo era we wali ne process y'okumubudaabuda kumuzaamu amaanyi guma okulaba kumulaga nti olinange okumutangira information obutasasanya obutabeera stigmatized okozesebwa obubi kati then awo tukimala nga tudda ku mateeka tetulina kulwawo nnyo but also temulina kupapa nnyo because omuntu aba affected tekiba kya bulijjo so wano mu mateeka ogambye mu kumudaabuda oyina okujayo akawaayiro akali mu ssemateeka wa Uganda owa 95 ndaba n'akawaayiro aka 28 akatunda kokusatu akagamba nti ssemateeka wa Uganda agamba nti omuntu taabenga na musango gwonna oba taavunaanibwe kuba nti omusango gumusinze nga tannakakasibwa kitegeeza oba tugambe nti ajja kulangiribwa nti talina musango okutuusa nga gumaze okumukka mu vvi presumption of innocence until proven guilt okay kakati omuntu atulaba Susan Sabo eno ye kamera yo kiki kyosobola okugamba abantu mu community abatuukibwako ebintu bino oyogere nabo kiki balina okukola kiki balina okusuubira obulamu nti oli walaba mulirwana bawankuba akola atya adduke ku poliisi oli walaba omwana wa gundi omwana gundi alengedde omusajja akutte muwala wooli adduke ku poliisi akola ki ye kamera eyo
webale nnyo bambi abantu ababeera mu community betaaga okumanya kyetuyita referral pathway kyombuuza saawa zino kino kintuukiddwako nsookera wa yes that is when we are talking about gender based violence ekintu kino kituseeko mu community tubeera ne ba LC ebiseera ebisinga si buli community nti erimu police station olumuuza akutambulako n'otuuka ku poliisi naye ebiseera ebisinga ensonga eno twagala nnyo LC agitegereko kubanga olumu bano abakola kino ekintu babeera nga bakiddamu ne bakiddamu natwawera story yali egomba ng'omusajja akwata omwana omukwomu naye nga amateeka tegamukolangako so LC yantegedde kyekibaddewo naye ate tetugikomera ku LC ensonga egende ku poliisi banga wegenda poliisi erina obuvunaanyizibwa olabanga bakolako examinations zetwogedde naye ate erina obuvunaanyizibwa otwala statement yo otegeera kiki ekyabaddewo kubanga statement yeeno gye tugenda okukozesa mu kooti okutuyambako okumanya nti kyabadde kino kiti naye ate poliisi wobanga ogiwabidde nti gundi ne gundi yantusizaako kino ekintu era nayo erina obuvunaanyizibwa onoonya gundi ne gundi eyakoze ekintu ekyo ne bamugulako ki omusango ne bamugulako omusango ne bamujjako statement eyo wekibanga kyetaagisa ebiseera ebisinga kiba kyetaagisa ne bamuteekako mu kakuli bamuteeka mu kaguli ako nga yebakola ki investigation oba okunoonyereza okuddirira yes poliisi bwekola okunoonyereza okuddirira nekwata omuntu ono olumu tebamuwa bond because sometimes eba yetaaga atuukibweko mu kooti kubanga amateeka gatugamba bakuwe essaawa 48 kyekira 48 rule ogende mu kooti owulirwe era ne mu kooti omwo bagira muteeka ku remand agira akola ki abeerayo so iyo advantage yo waba ensonga ku poliisi nti ejja kuba ekola ki etambula naye ne mu community muno mulimu ebitongole ebiyingiddemu ebyannakyewa wenjogera ku FIDA egezezzaako okutambula eggwanga lino erina office mu bifo ebyenjawulo mu Uganda kuva Kampala wuyo Kotido wuyo Mbale wuyo Iganga wuyo Lwengo wuyo Busoga region mulimu FIDA Uganda Bugisu region mulimu FIDA Uganda Masaka region mulimu FIDA Uganda Lwengo Kampala mulimu FIDA Uganda ne tugenda ne ku kooti ezimu kubanga abantu abamu batukira ku kooti nga tebamanyi kyakola ne tuteekawo family desk ze tugamba nti ensonga zisookere wano omuntu azisiivinge bulungi azitegeere so ebitongole nga mulimu action aid zize mu community mulimu law society mweziri mu community obanga abantu tebakola ki tebazimanyi naye nga mweziri onoonyako ekitongole nekigamba kino kyatyo kubanga abantu abamu baba batya n'agamba we banagenda ku poliisi bayinza okuwe erina community nga weebeera bayinza okugamba ono anoonya ki ku poliisi aloopaani ate abantu abasinga mu community balinga baluganda nti ekikosa ono kikosa omulala so tweyina ebitongole ebyo that's another referral pathway naye ate abamu oyinza oba nga ne kooti ekuli kumpi ne kooti nayo referral pathway naye nga zino zonna zikoze totaaga nga tukoze ki nga tuzitegedde nti mweziri kyobola nga tukubiza nnyo ebitongole ebisinga ebikola nga ffe we tugenda mu community tyamaba tutegeera nti tutandikira wano ne wano kubanga bayinza bakimanyi naye nga tebamanyi wakutandikira bamanyi munateeka gyegali naye tebamanyi tutandikirewa tugenganze tutya so wetutegeera nti bino ebizibu ebimu community we go and sensitize tugenda ne tubabuulirako kitambula bwekiti I think FIDA has tried and also many organizations have really tried or sensitizing abantu to referral pathways naye n'ekirala tuba twagala nnyo abantu bagenda ku poliisi let it be kind to them ebeere yakisa banga omuntu aba ayisemu ekyo ekintu sometimes ne community yenyini tenaba kubirivinga nti kibaddewo
ebeerewo yakisa ereme
kulwisaawo nnyo
bakusaba ssente bakuze eri bakutambuza oleesa ensonga ate sooka okole kino ate sooka okole kiri babugamba bannaaye siri mulalu nzisi nina obujulizi ndabye mulirwana akola bwati mukyala we sigumusa ebiri akati ate ani yaliwo bali bameka omanyi bali bamanyi okubuuza
oba nogamba mpa amafuta ntokeyo ate nga nze nange nyamba buyambi you get so those are some of the referral pathways
ekyo kireetedde abantu okutwalira amateeka mu ngalo ne bagamba ye gundi yakuta omwana
katumutte nembeerabira nti waliwo kali kaguwa akawaayiro
naye oba nabo baba beesigamye ku kawaayiro kasemateeka akasatu mu ennya akagamba nti children are entitled to be protected from economic for any exploitation naffe lwali tukuuma mwana waffe
children are entitled naye jjukira ate omala okola mob justice eno tosigalawo nga weebase because obadde oprotecting abaana ojja kgenda wa mu kaguli
kakati Susan ekisembayo community abazadde abanaddiini abakulu b'ennono culture leaders bayingiriramu era bazanya mu kitundu ki mu kutaasa obuzibu oba obutyabaga okutuuka ku bakyala n'abaana
I think kantandike ne community community especially parents abazadde balina omulimu munene nnyo okutangira obuzibu obutuuka ku baana saawa zino abaana bawumudde abasinga bali mu luwummula abazadde twavuddeyo tugenze kukola yes naye ne weekend era tuba tuvuddeyo
kituufu
so obuvunaanyizibwa obusinga tubulekedde abakozi abatalina kakwate ku baana omukozi atalina kakwate ku mwana tajja mulabirira nga gwe wandimulabiridde abazadde benjogerako bano abaana bulaba nti atandise okuvaamu kisobola omutuwako naye ate abaana mubawe information abazadde abaana mubawe information kubanga omwana ajja kgenda mu bikolwa ebimu nga defilement wetsomakesa zisinga children are not supposed to give consent tebawa consent naye ate bakigendamu nga tebabakase that's the difference kati ekizibu ekiriwo nti abazadde tetwadde bana information tulesa amasomero gabawe
okugeza nti omuzadde alina okugamba omwana we no one should touch on your private parts
wakwatako ŋŋamba
tell me naye waliwo bana anti abasajja gezo oyogere abatiisatiisa naye ndowooza ffe tulina kusigala ku kiri gwe yongera omwana confidence
tubeere ba mikwano n'abaana baffe omwana tajja kutya kugamba kigenda mu maaso ng'oli mukwano gwe newaba okusatisa era jagambeko maama we mukwano gwe so abazadde tubeere beerufu ku baana baffe obagambe kino wekibaawo osobola ofuna olubuto musobovamu obulwadde kino wekibaawo ŋŋamba oba toŋŋambye gambako sengaawo gambako anti gundi so mubagambe nti bino ebintu gyebiri banga batikawo nga tebamino kisotuukawo bagaye muno gyebiri babitegeere.
Okay, abali b'emyoyo n'ab'ennono bo bakole batya?
Tukozese church, let it be a platform.
Emizikiti.
Kereziya zibeere platform kubanga bakyala bayita mu bizibu ebisinga naye ate nga abaami abamu bawuliriza nnyo omubuulizi.
Youth gatherings ezo zonna.
Omubuulizi. Let us use the platforms we have to take information. Naye ne bakwetedde ensonga zino muno omukyala atulumiza waka bamuyisa mu bino ne bino tetugamba nti sooka ogumemu kubanga chachi egamba weti ne weti. Nedda wekiba kyetaagisa tuuza abantu wekiba kyetaagisa omuntu muwe ekyokukola n'omugaba bakola kino naye omwami teyandikoze kino mumpitire wano. Let us be those reprimands, but also maybe another message that I could send nga government increasing funding to these pathways.
Susan Wamala kubanga in support of this campaign, the United Nations Secretary General's Unit by 2030 initiative calls for global action to increase awareness first, galvanize advocacy efforts, but also theme ya 16 days of activism advocacy against gender-based violence. Invest to prevent violence against women. Invest.
Yeah.
So government
so there is need to invest in the implementation of enforcement agencies, yes, that can help to prevent violence against women and girls. Number one, I think in 2016, FIDA, Action Aid, I think, and UNFPA had tried to bring about, we call them safe spaces or things that help people. So government should invest in those safe spaces for these children.
Okay.
But also let us invest in the police. It's a fast referral pathways for sexual and gender-based violence. Let us avoid issues where the police is telling people to pay for police form 3. Let that be already be paid for.
In that 10 seconds, look in that camera. Your last word, Susan.
My last words is that gender-based violence is real, especially sexual and gender-based violence, but also economic violence is very real against women. Women have been stopped from working, women have been stopped from doing so many things, but all these actually have an impact on the country, Uganda. So my major call is that let us create awareness on gender-based violence, but also I also call upon the sexual services bill. I think it should be passed. Yeah, but also government invest in matters that relate to sexual and gender-based violence to help enforcement officers combat the same.
Thank you so much, Susan Wamala.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yes, a legal officer at FIDA, Uganda, and we are in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which kicked off on the 25th of November to the 10th of December. We've been tackling the law and gender-based violence. You know, Mutesa is my name. Same time, same day, tomorrow, when we celebrate the World AIDS Day. See you